which one performs the best? Is it the first one because it's been there for a long time? Is it the second one because it's only one episode a month? Is the one episode a month actually hinder you? Is the new podcast more because you brought over all of your listeners? Very curious for many of us who are going to start one or two or three or four podcasts, what you've learned by doing those. So that's really what I'm trying to get at.
Yeah. So I'll say in terms of success, and if you want to measure it by downloads, it would go in the sequence of third, first, and second. So Disrupt the Everyday is probably performing the best overall right now. The Healthcare Security Cast would be second, and then the Proactive Security podcast is third. And I think the reason why that one doesn't do as well is because it's not as frequent, right? So you're uploading one episode a month, so you don't get that same listenership. With the other ones where there's weekly content, the Healthcare Security Cast, before I was doing all these other podcasts, there were times where I was releasing more than one a week. So again, I would try to add bonus episodes. And, with that one, when I was just getting started, I didn't know what I was doing. So I was reaching out to people in my industry and saying, hey, whether it was people I knew or people I didn't know, like, I have this podcast, I'd love to get your feedback. Love to have you on the show, whatever. But I was reaching out to people directly and just trying to, not even necessarily trying to grow it, but just trying to get feedback and see what people wanted to hear about so I could facilitate those conversations. So I think that really helped in terms of, just getting that consistent, consistent listeners. It was just, yeah. There's one guy in particular who I haven't got him on the show yet, but he said he didn't listen to podcasts before this. Right. I had reached out to him. He's like, this is the only podcast I listen to.
Wow.
And yeah. So, and then in terms of the Disrupt the Everyday, my wife's big on, I wouldn't say big, it's only really been since we started the podcast, but she's a very social person, and using Instagram, she's been able to bring in people who I wouldn't have been able to bring in because I'm not really on there. I have an account.
You mean as like guests on the show or as listeners?
Both, but primarily as listeners, because that's a whole audience. Most of my social media activity is on LinkedIn. I post a quote every morning. I've been doing for a lot of years, but I go on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, and LinkedIn, and I post that in the morning. The only site that I'll go out back to throughout the day typically is going to be LinkedIn. So I'm not engaging as much on those other platforms where she is. So she helps bring in, again, other people. And, since that podcast isn't focused very, it's not niche down to healthcare security. There's a lot more, it's a bit more broad. So there's, I think, more people who will find interesting topics that we're discussing.